This podcast replay is brought to you by Choice Mortgage Bank. Call Michael Kotze right now, 561-441-2730. State rates under 3.5%. 561-441-2730 for Choice Mortgage Bank.
Talk to my man David Dwork, who does an excellent job of covering the very frustrating Florida Panthers on a daily basis. The Panthers are off tonight and Friday. They will host the Red Wings on Saturday at 7 o'clock. And let's hope that they can turn things around here. Let's bring David on because David, of course, was kicking ass yesterday, making us all look really jealous because he had a roast that he cooked yesterday that was just absolutely outstanding. David, how are you doing, my brother?
I'm doing well. Oh, I'm doing very well. Yourself? Having a good holiday?
How was that roast? Yeah, I had a great holiday until I saw your roast, and I was like, holy crap, that thing is awesome. How perfect was that thing? Because it looked like it really belonged on a brochure. You know what I'm saying? Seriously.
I can't take any credit for cooking it. I have not. I was telling your producer Bill in the break. I haven't reached the hierarchy in my family that I'm allowed to cook in the kitchen on holidays. We've got the older Dworks that take care of that. But that roast was insane, and the carved slices that were on everybody's plate were no joke, like almost an inch thick. Oh, it was amazing.
Jealous. So jealous. That thing looks so good, dude. My mouth was watering just looking at that thing. It was awesome. Anyway, David, our boys are coming off a loss to the Lightning, 6-1. Talk to us a little bit about that performance on Monday night. That was a little disturbing.
They have their number the last few games. Even the game that Florida won against Tampa, it was mostly a Tampa-controlled game. And Monday night was just I don't really know where that effort came from, because they had been playing such strong, inspired hockey over the last 7 to 10 days, finishing out the homestand strong. They had a good week of practice going into it. And the discussion was from Q and from several of the players just emptying the tank. We know we have a big holiday break coming up, and the 2 games leading up, you think, okay, these guys are starting to hit that stride again. And then they showed up in Tampa, and it was like hitting a brick wall. Tampa, from the very first minute, they got the lead, and the Panthers were never really in it. They had a power play goal, and that was about it. Otherwise, it was all Tampa the whole game. And it's just dumbfounding because, one game they can look like they have their stuff together, and then they can show up in Tampa and look like that. So, the inconsistency right now is the most troubling part of it.
And that's the inconsistency is something that kind of has been stuck with these guys for the last few years, no matter who the coach is. And so what does Q have to do I mean, hell, if you know that, then obviously this is a difficult question to ask you, almost impossible to put you in that position. But, dude, what does Q have to do to figure out consistency? Because that's been a problem with this team and this group of individuals for a while now. And you had a great goaltender who's not playing great, and you had a great coach, and yet it hasn't changed yet. This team continues to be inconsistent. This year was just a different type of inconsistency. You started off really well, and now you tailed off, and now you're out of the playoff race again, and it's kind of where you've been the last couple of years, on the outside looking in.
Yeah, I think this season with the new coaching staff coming in, I mean, you said it, it's different inconsistency issues, but I think with this year, you're giving Q his first real good long look at everything that this franchise has to offer, whether it's the guys that are playing in the NHL right now or the guys that are a tier below in the AHL, the Borgstroms and the Tippetts of the world. But I think with Q, it's just a matter of, A, you keep driving the point home to your team, you keep preaching his system, you keep working it into them day after day after day, and you see if the consistency can come around. But it's also, B, you're evaluating each of these players, and you're getting a good taste of who you feel can handle his system, who he feels can bring the consistency, and anybody who doesn't make that list, well, that's when changes start to be made. With the new regime, I think the first year is just all about evaluating that talent. They're a good enough team that even first year they should absolutely be a playoff team. But overall, this is a long-term play with the Panthers and with talent. They gave Q that big, long contract, and they're hoping that this is going to become a long-term thing like what he built in Chicago. Year one, I think we're just going to scratch the surface on it, and I think it could be an interesting summer especially based on what Dale Talon has been up to over the last 6 months with going after Panarin and then inquiring about Taylor Hall. Clearly, they're looking for another big contract if they can get it. So I feel like whatever happens at the end of this year, we're just going to have to see how everything pans out free agency-wise.
By the way, just some breaking. I'm seeing a report this afternoon says Hurricanes are getting rid of Dan Enos, win or lose, in the Indy Bowl game. I'm reading that right now from FootballInsiders.com. Florida Football Insiders.
Yeah, I think Tim Reynolds had that. Had that first earlier today.
Yeah, I didn't see that. Wow, so they're going to get rid of Dan Enos either way, huh? Interesting how that breaks. You look at the inconsistencies, all right? You cover the team. And look, David, you and I know it, and most Panther fans that follow the team, we knew this wasn't going to be an elite defensive team. So we know that that's an issue going in, that they're not elite in that area. They can be elite in scoring, and we know that they can be elite in goaltending. So what is it that you're seeing that you think can he fix at all on defense and the goaltending to improve the defensive side? Because we know that, they only scored one goal the other night, but we know that this team can show us more consistency on the offensive end than the defensive end. So talk to me more about the defensive end.
With the defense in the Panthers, it's very much a 5 players on the ice game. It's not just the defensemen that are out there. And the inconsistencies that I've noticed the most aren't necessarily problems with the defensemen. It's just the defensive system. The big thing that I've seen is the forwards just aren't always on the same page. And whether it's a gap control issue, whether it's just blown assignments in the defensive zone, some games, everybody will be exactly where they need to be. No, you're not going to see 5 guys within a few feet of each other like you saw several times against Tampa on Monday. You're going to see a spread out defense. You're going to see guys picking up their men, watching their quadrants of the zone. And for the reason without the consistency, I wish I had the answer to that, because then maybe I'd be getting paid from the team. But it's just a matter of getting all 5 players on the ice on that same page, and it's just keeps coming back to that same word, inconsistency. And just trying to put my finger on one particular thing, it's hard, because it's been, like I said, it's been issues with the gaps between the forwards and the defensemen. It's been issues with your defensemen are getting in the right place, and then they're getting left hung out to dry because guys from the opposing team are coming into the zone. It's ending up like a 3 or 4-on-2 because the forwards are so far behind. And it comes down to guys like, I don't like to throw names out there, but off the top of my head, thinking like Hoffman, his back checking has been an issue. It's tough. Oh, it really is. And I'm imagine that, as I said before with Quenneville, he's just figuring out which guys are going to fit in his system and which guys aren't going to fit. And after the season is over, we're going to see some changes, I would think.
And how much, and I know that you play hockey and you play the goalie position, how much of this is affecting the psyche of Bobrovsky and affecting him, that maybe he thinks he's got to make up for a little bit of their inconsistencies too, and maybe he's anticipating even on trying to block shots some of their shortcomings, and it's affecting him in doing his job, because obviously we're not getting the Bobrovsky that we all thought we were going to get here in late December as it is. So walk me through all of that too.
I think that if you would have asked me that question maybe like 6 weeks ago, I would have had a much different answer, because that's when Bob was really kind of in flux. His season was up and down. He was, sometimes happy in the locker room. Sometimes he was very quick to answer. He at one point even talked about his defenseman a little bit and that he wasn't happy with it. But I think since like mid to late November, Bob has been in a great mental state. He seems to be really locked in, whether it's in practice, whether it's in games. He's been very consistent. And he's just overall, he seems like if he's not focused, he's just happy. Like I've seen him smiling and laughing and just having a good time in practice a lot more than I did earlier in the year. So I think from Bobrovsky's standpoint, I think he's just locked in and doing his thing. And as a goaltender, you just come to expect that some games your guys in front of you are going to have it a little differently than others. And some games you're going to have to stop 40 shots, and some games you might not face 20 shots. And with Bob and with goalies in general, it's just like a starting pitcher. You go out there and you know what you want to do, and you try your best to do your thing. And especially with Bob, it's so much of it, and we've talked about it before, so much of a mental thing with him. He's so in his own head. And a lot of it's a good thing when everything is on the same page, and we're seeing that right now. We've seen it throughout his career. But early in the season is when, he was figuring his things out. But Bob is one of the least of my concerns right now, and I was hoping that we'd get to talk to him because I know Bob has been a big discussion point between you and I. And I think right now, as far as his brief time in a Panther sweater, he's in the best place that he's been.
That's why I asked you, because I know he has played a little better, still not to where we want him, but that's why I asked you about the environment around him, how much it's affecting him in trying to make up for it, because he's got to know deep down inside, like, these guys in front of me are not good enough. You know what I mean? So he's got to have some level of insecurity around him, not about his ability, but the ability of the guys in front of him. And that's got to be disturbing for a goaltender because he really can't control that.
Well, I mean, obviously I can't speak for Bob at all, but from my personal perspective, from the goaltending perspective, I think, especially with this Panthers team, like, yes, they're struggling, but being that he's there, he sees it way better than anybody else. There's plenty of talent on this roster. It's certainly a capable roster. You throw in a coach like Quenneville, there's no reason to think that they won't be able to get everything together. They should be able to. We're not even at the halfway point of the season yet, and we've seen that when they're on point, that it can work. So with Bob, I feel like he gets so in his own head with his own game and focused on his technicalities, where his footwork is, his hands, all that stuff. It's just not. It's like not worth it to start worrying about those things that are out of your control. Just go out there, do your thing. And that's the impression that I get of Bob, that he just wants to go out there and make sure he's doing everything at the top of his game, and that everything else that's out of his hands, fall where it may. Basically, you got to trust that this team is going to get everything together. And for him, if he's not trusting that and able to focus on his own game, then he's kind of losing before he steps on the ice.
WPLG reporter, writer, David Dwork joining us. You can follow him on Twitter at David Dwork. So in a way, David, the way you kind of described the team with the talent and all of that, it's also maybe there's a level of a lack of confidence, not for Bob, I'm saying, for the guys in front. Do they need to go like on a little run where they play well so they can start to kind of believe in themselves that they can be a better defensive squad? How much of that maybe you think is lacking for the Panthers on defense, confidence?
I think the confidence obviously winning and playing well is going to breed confidence, but I think it all just kind of ties into the same basic mentality of, if they're playing the way Q wants them to play, if they're doing what they're supposed to do, it's going to translate into playing better and wins and confidence, and it's all just going to fall into place. So in that sense, yeah, if they can string a few wins together, and if they can figure out how to consistently play this defense as a five-man unit the way Q wants them to, who knows what we could see in the second half of the year, because their schedule is going to get a lot easier too. They played a lot of tough teams in the first half of the year, so that's going to get a little bit better. The games are going to get more spaced out. They should get a little bit more practice time. And it's just so hard to speculate, but I would imagine that because they have the talent, and one thing about the Panthers and what Dale Talon has done with this team is not just talented, but smart players. He's got a lot of smart guys on this team that know hockey. So it shouldn't be that big of an issue over the course of the season for them to get on that Q program. And I still firmly believe that it's going to happen, only because we've seen it, not maybe game in and game out and game in and game out, but we've seen it in enough chunks that the talent and the ability is there. It's just a matter, and I hate to keep sounding like a broken record, but it's just a matter of getting everybody on the same page.
Follow him on Twitter at David Dwork and catch his work there at WPLG's website. And tell him about the podcast, my man, Chirping the Cats.
Chirping the Cats, the podcast, anywhere you get your podcast, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify. It's been cool so far. We've had interviews with Barkov, Huberdeau, Matheson, Jovanovski's jumped on there, Jokinen, former Panthers. And, it's the 10th episode is coming up with George Richards from The Athletic. He tells some really funny stories about he's covered the team for like 15 years now. So got some interesting on some past goalies. A couple of former Panthers goalies possibly getting in a fist fight one night at a bar, and some trade stories, some good stuff, man. So the next episode will drop probably this weekend.
There you go. Chirping the Cats, David Dwork. Follow him on Twitter at David Dwork and catch his work there at Channel 10 or WPLG's website. David, as always, you're a stud, my brother. Thank you for taking some time, and don't leave us out of the roast next time.
Anything for you, Big O.
You got it, baby.
Take care, my friend.
Be good. There you go. David Dwork, man. Good stuff there, as always. Love it.